Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of Heroes 2021. And we have here our presenters from Union Bank. Go ahead, guys. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Good
Good
afternoon, everyone.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, I'll just share my screen. Allow me to share my screen. Just a moment. Okay, here. Okay. So again, good morning, everyone. So I am Milch. I am one of your facilitators for today. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I know it's a weekend, so we really appreciate your presence and we admire your passion for learning. So together with me today are Sir Derek, Carla, and Gladys. Good morning. Hi, Sir D.
Good morning. Good morning, Mitch. Morning, Carla. Good morning, Gladys.
Afternoon. Good morning and actually good afternoon.
Ay,
Good
afternoon na
afternoon,
pala. Oo nga.
everyone.
Sorry, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, so we will be your facilitators for this afternoon. So I am Milch. I'm part of the Human Resource Group of Union Bank, and I work as an employee relations manager. I am also a certified Microsoft Education ambassador. Okay, so we are all excited for this afternoon. How about Sir D?
Hi, I'm Derek Nicdao. I'm an executive of Union Bank of the Philippines. I'm also a Microsoft Education ambassador. Okay, I also work part-time as a lecturer sa De La Salle University, and I'm formerly also an assistant professor in the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Good afternoon to everyone. Carla?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Carla. So I'm part of the talent acquisition team of Union Bank. So I'm also a Microsoft Education ambassador. I'm glad that you are all joining us this afternoon. Ms. Gladys?
Thanks, Carla. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, teachers. I'm Gladys. I'm from the HR services. I'm a benefits officer from Union Bank. Together with Carla, Sir Derek, and Milka, I'm also a Microsoft Education ambassador. We welcome you for this afternoon's session.
Yes, okay. Thank you. So for this afternoon, we'll be talking about asynchronous learning gamification. All right. So just a reminder for everyone. So feel free to use the chat box for any comments or feedback or even suggestions. You may also click the Q&A widget and post your questions. So we'll try to answer those as much as we can. So since our topic for today is gamification, we've also prepared a game we call myth or fact. So are you guys ready to play this game? Please say yes in the chat box. Okay, let's check if all our teachers are ready to play this game, myth or fact. All right, so we will be presenting different statements about gamification, and you have to let us know if it's a myth or a fact. Okay? Let's start with statement number 1. Okay. So first statement, gamification is just a fad. What do you think? So again, please type your answers in the chat box. Is it a myth or a fact? Let's check the answers of our teachers. Okay. All right. Is it a myth or a fact? All right. Gamification is just a fad. All right. Yes. All right. So, yes, it is a myth. Let me just go to the next slide. Gamification is just a fad. Of course not. It's just a myth because the mechanics of the gameplay have been used for years or even decades already, and it helps students grasp educational concepts easily. Games are often used to improve memory recall, and thus gamification is not a fad. It's evident that gaming technology are now integrated into our lives. For example, the tech giants, they're investing a lot on the research and development of educational games, and mobile apps. So we have the Internet of Things, virtual reality, and the augmented reality, and a lot more. Okay, so now let's go to the next statement. Let me just check. Okay, so there is no science behind gamification. What do you think? Is this a myth or a fact? Mhm. Let's just wait for our dear teachers to answer. All right. So I can see some who answered fact, myth.
Yep.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. So Sir D, what's the answer?
Okay, next slide, Mitch. Okay, it is a myth, basically. Okay, so let me just go through a short explanation behind this. Okay. Minsan ito yung misconception natin about gamification. Kasi when we try to look at the term gamification, okay, immediately we associate it with games. We associate it with entertainment. Okay. Now, let's try to look deeper into what is the objective basically of gamification. Ang gamification, kaya siya na-create, kaya siya de-develop, it is really more for the intention of motivating our student. Okay? So may science siya. Okay? Although nandun yung sinasabi nating nagbibigay tayo ng reward, nagbibigay tayo ng certain benefit, pag meron kang magandang points, etc. and so on, ang mas malalim na reason why we are going into a gamification is we want to change the behavior of the people that are involved in this particular type of an activity. Okay? Para lang mas ma-appreciate natin. Okay? When we go into a gamification, ang ina-address natin is the intrinsic value of each participant. Meaning, ang kailangan nating ma-establish sa kanila, ang kailangan nating ma-uplift sa kanila will be basically yung kanang social at saka yung self-esteem component ng kanilang value. Okay? There is really a book that studies gamification. So, yun yung magandang masasabi natin bakit ano yung talagang basis of this particular thing as being effective in doing online teaching or even kahit online teaching in trying to complement yung ating mga teaching techniques. Okay? Siguro, okay, shortly, okay, ano ba yung mga sinasabi nating element that we would like to be part of this particular activity? Okay? The first of all is autonomy. Okay? Sinasabi natin, tayo, as a person, we always want to experience yung freedom in selecting what we would like to do or what our next course of action is. Okay? So, yung gamification gives us this particular opportunity na gawin tong ating autonomy because behind the game is you are given certain choices, okay? And after you have made that particular choice, meron kang susunod na step, etc. and so on. So that's how we try to structure this particular thing. Second is mastery. Okay? That's part of a self-esteem value. Pag sinabi nating mastery, ang sinasabi natin kasi dito, we always try to achieve something moving forward. Okay? Ang maganda kasi when we try to apply gamification is yung incremental yung ating nagiging achievement. And that is a far more good reason kung bakit siya nagiging effective. Okay? Karamihan sa tao, mas na-appreciate natin na nakikita natin, gumagalaw tayo unti-unti at nakikita natin yung progress natin. So, we are more motivated to move forward. Kesa yung hihintayin mo yung sa dulo ng araw, sa dulo ng week, paano ko makikita yung achievement ko, and at the middle of it, hindi ko alam, gumalaw ba ako, meron ba ako achievement, etc. and so on. So, yung gamification should be able to address that particular concern. Yung incremental mastery mo of the lesson, incremental changes or improvement that you have should be part of that particular gamification. Third element, the purpose. Okay? When we say the purpose, typical to any game, meron kang goal, meron kang certain target, meron kang certain objective of what we want to accomplish in that particular type of activity. So that is the purpose. And of course, pwede natin idagdag yung pang-apat, merong pang relatedness. Ang relatedness is really more on the social activity. It provides us a way to relate with others. That is also part of a team. Okay? So ang sinasabi natin, when we try gamification, it is not only for entertainment, but there is really a purpose behind structuring. So later on, when we see some of the slides also, yung mga tips na sasabihin ng ating mga co-panelists regarding how to build it, okay, we should always keep in mind that our main purpose is really to increase or enhance the motivation of our students, of our participants. Okay. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you, Sir D. So now let's go to our third statement. Okay. So gamification is not just a hype and is useful tomorrow. Okay, what do you think? Is it a myth or a fact? So again, please type your answers in the chat box. I know that we're also live, so in Facebook. So I think our dear teachers in Facebook can also participate. Just type your answers in the comment section and we'll also look at it. Okay. So we can see some of the answers. Fact, all right. So Carla, what's the answer?
Sir Derek's explanation gave them an idea on what the answer for this question. Of course, it's a fact. So as mentioned by Sir Derek, this is already a tool very useful nowadays, and it is not just for now, and this is definitely not a hype. So it has already moved into a stage wherein this is already a very useful tool nowadays for training programs in education. So gamification was claimed already to be helpful in providing um, skills for us to resolve real life problems, and not just in our personal aspect, but also with the things that we do on a daily basis. So yes, it's not just a hype, it's an effective tool already for trainings and for other development skills that a company will be promoting.
Yes, all right. Thank you, Carla. And for our last and the fourth and the last statement, gamification is only possible in an online class setting. So what do you think? Is this a myth or a fact? So again, please type your answers in the chat box or in the comment section in Facebook. Okay, let's check the answers. All right. So most of the participants said myth. Okay. What's the answer? Gladys.
Right, ayan. Giveaway yan. Giveaway yung myth or ano na yan, myth or fact. Of course, it is a myth. And I guess from our other facilitators, they also mentioned about it that gamification is with its intent and objective, hindi lang siya pang online. So bago pa nangyari tong pandemic na to, I know you guys have, or even us would have memories of our games in our classes where we experience not only the learnings of the subjects that are teachers, but also the memories of the fun and yung socialization na sinabi nga rin ni Sir Derek. For some gamification styles also, nakikita natin yan. Ako, if I may share siguro, yung pinaka-relevant sa akin nung ginawa, yung mga practical test, yan, sabi nga nila. So, hindi siya pen and paper. It's also a type of gamification where you move physically to achieve not only the goal of the game, but also the subject matter we intend to teach our.
Yes, thank you, Gladys. And thank you to our dear teachers for participating. Now, I'll turn you over to Sir D to discuss the difference between games and simulations.
Okay.
Sir D?
Yung aspect ng dalawang term na to, games and simulations, okay, in most of the time, are being interchanged. Okay? So bago tayo pumunta dun sa subject ng gamification, probably it will be better or best for us to really have a distinction between these two type of terms. When we say games, games basically are set of activities that we are doing subject to a certain rules, subject to a certain objective. Okay? So alam natin that when we try to go into a certain game, kailangan alam muna natin, ano ba yung rule dito? Paano ba ako magka-qualify sa game? Ano ba yung mechanics? Paano ba ako mananalo? Ano ba yung process? Okay, para ma-accomplish ko to. At the same time, iintindihan natin ano ba yung end task ng game na to. Paano ba mag-end to? Paano matatapos yung game na to? So that's how game are being played. As compared to a simulation may be looked at as parang part of a game activity, but technically, when we say simulation, the intention will really be to copy what is the actual thing that may happen. Okay? So iba yung activity that you're doing when you are conducting a simulation at iba yung activity when you are conducting a game. Okay? A good example will be a simple role-playing situation. Okay? Minsan ginagawa natin yan, di ba? Pag may gusto tayong communicate sa mga estudyante natin, pumunta tayo dun sa aspect ng role-playing. Meaning, halimbawa, sabihin na lang natin, a simple example of a customer service type of lecture or an activity. Okay? So, kung gusto nating ma-experience, ano ba talaga yung mangyayari during the point of that particular contact between, sabihin na natin, a customer and a client, we usually resort to a role-playing. Is that a game or is that a simulation? Okay. In our case, ang sinasabi natin, that's a simulation. It's not a game. It may look like an entertainment activity kasi nawawala yung boredom, nabubuhay yung mga kasama sa klase, nag-iisip pa, etc. and so on. But this is more tagged as a simulation because we are trying to act out kung ano yung mga actual scenario na pwedeng mangyari. Okay? So, ang rule lang dito is, sinasabi lang natin, when you do a role-playing situation, isipin mo ikaw ang kliyente, isipin mo ikaw ang customer, kaya ilagay mo yung sarili mo as ikaw yung masungit na customer, at ilagay mo yung sarili mo as how are you going to reply dun sa masungit na customer mo. That's a role-playing. Okay? It is simply being tagged as parang game kasi may entertainment part, hindi siya yung usual trivial lesson na i-lecture ko, ganito dapat yung gagawin mo, 1, 2, 3, and 4. As opposed to an actual game. Pag sinabi kong actual game, sabihin lang natin, for these 10 minutes, maghanap kayo halimbawa ng mga, maglista kayo ng mga usual pain points that you are having with your client. At sino yung pinakamarami, I will give certain price. That's a game. Okay, it is not a simulation. Because in that particular case, you are now trying to create a certain rule in how the activity will be done, and you have defined what will be the outcome, and it is clear what will be the expectation from that particular outcome. Okay. So, on the next part, speech. Okay. So, when we try, I'm sorry. Okay. So, what is gamification? When we talk of gamification, basically, ang sinasabi lang natin dito is we apply the principles, we apply the characteristics, okay, to a particular type of a setting. We try to transform the environment, which is a non-game, into a game environment. Okay? So ito yung madaming challenges, okay, that will come ahead. We try to be innovative, we try to be resourceful, we try to put into a proper context yung mga minention ko kanina na ano ba yung mga objective of why we are trying to transform this particular activity into a game-like type of a session. Okay? So yung paggawa ng gamification technically is not an easy task. Okay, because it needs a lot of planning, it needs a lot of thinking, it needs a lot of going back, whether yung ating intention of increasing or enhancing the motivation of our students are being enhanced with whatever gamification plan that you are having. Okay. So yung gamification, we just need the principles of how games are being conducted, with the use of rules, with the use of rewards, with the use of badges, okay, creating some leaders, etc. and so on. But the end of everything is we are trying to apply this particular tool para enhance yung motivations ng mga estudyante for them to appreciate the lesson, for them to be really engaged dun sa mga activities that we are planning for that particular session. Okay, Ms. Mitch?
Okay. Yes, I agree with you, Sir D. And now we'd like to share the Bartle test of psychology. I know it's important to know the demographics of our participants or even the students if you're a teacher. And but aside from the demographics, what's important is to know the profile or the preference or even the type of participants or type of students that you'll be teaching. So what's the Bartle test of psychology? So this is actually a test or to understand or to determine how players like to approach playing games. It is an online multiple choice test that asks 2 questions. So one is to know, or the question, does the player focus on the game world or on other players? And does the player care most about acting or about interacting? So for our dear teachers, you may also try it yourself. So just go to this website flashed on your screen. Maybe you can do it later because it will take like 3 to 5 minutes of your time just to know what type of player you are. Okay, so in our case, we answered this test. So example question, which would you enjoy more as an online game player? A, running your own tavern, or B, making your own maps of the world, then selling them. So for us, like even I myself, I'm not so surprised with with the result. So I just want to share that there are 4 types of players. So there's the achiever, killer, socializer, and the explorer. So in my case, the result of my Bartle test of psych is that I'm an achiever. So I'm interested in acting and the real world. Okay. How about Sir D? What's the result
Ako,
of
explorer. Interested
okay.
in interacting in the world.
Interested in interacting in the world? How about Carla?
Mine is explorer. So it is interested in what's happening with the world.
Okay. And how about Gladys?
My
Mm-hmm. Gladys?
players. Hello? Yeah.
Yes,
Nagbe-break si
yes.
Miss
Explorer.
Gladys yan.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
So explorer or socializer, Gladys?
yes. It's more of the explorer, and then the next one was the socializer.
Yes, because there are also certain percentage. You'll see the percentage when you take the exam. So in my case, I think the list is the killer type. Okay. So we'll further discuss the details. Let's start with, all right, achiever. So if it says here, or according to this Bartle test of psychology, if you're an achiever, you seek to improve your own power and status. So like for me, fun comes from points and leveling up. So if you want to engage your students, it's better to use in-game achievements like points, levels, or trophies. So it depends because you have to craft or customize your games or your gamified type of learning to the type of students that you are teaching. For most achievers, they are self-competing personal bests. So meaning, even though they've already reached, let's say, a certain level or a certain score, it's good because they want to keep on beating that particular score. So they always want to have a higher score or personal bests. And they also enjoy recognition of their achievements. And what else? They are results oriented. So while playing games, of course, is already fun for most of us, most if not all of us, I think the achievers understand that winning a game is even more fun. Okay, so next, Sir D.
Okay, killers. Okay, also known as griefers. Okay, in this particular case, ito yung mga tipong ang focus mo lang really is winning, etc. And so ito yung medyo you'll do something to be able to achieve whatever is yung goal mo. Okay? So ito yung mga traits ng people basically. In this particular case, when you're dealing with this type of people, ang motivation talaga nila really is to be able to increase yung kanilang reputation and recognition. Okay? So that's how you will be able to motivate them to participate.
Okay, next, socializer. All right, but Carla, I think your result, you're a socializer, right?
I think it's Miss Gladys.
Yes.
Sorry, Gladys. Okay, Gladys.
Yeah. For the socializer, ayan. So the gamers or those who took the test and will result to socializer, objective nila in terms of playing the game is to make friends. Ganyan. So the point of playing is to make friends, tapos hindi masyadong important sa kanila kung nananalo or nami-meet nila yung goal ng game. So for a gamified lesson, for example, we can probably set up a game or a gamification of a lesson to encourage socializing for students who are medyo introvert siguro. So, and those who are socializers by nature, you'll definitely observe na they'd rather talk or relate with their other players. So that's what is important with them. Kung sino yung naglalaro, sino yung kalaro nila, or sino yung kakampi nila during the game. That's for the socializer.
Thank you, Gladys. And of course, last but not the least, the explorers. Okay, so ito tama na, no? Carla, that's your result.
Yes,
Okay.
result explorers. I just want to share to our participants or to our teachers yung avatar namin, no? Does it look like us? So it's somehow fun to look at. That's how we experience taking this Bartle test of psychology, no? Parang it's fun also to learn about yourself, even if you already have an idea on what your attitude is or your behavior is, but it's also nice to look at it in a different angle or aspect or tool. So for explorers, they love to figure out games. Fun comes from discovery. So basically, when for explorers, there's no such thing as failure, because failure for them is basically, it's not really all about it. It's the journey that they went through discovering things during the game or during the lecture. So collectors, they are also collectors of knowledge and little known facts. They enjoy teaching others, and they are very, as mentioned, they are very keen on the journey more than getting the incentives or being part of the first rank or the top 3 ranking character in the game. So basically, they are keen on experience or the process or the process of winning or discovering something. So I've learned also that explorers makes a mental note in terms of whenever they fail or whenever they stumble, they make it a point that they will learn from this experience. So it's actually discovering out of themselves as well when they do something. Yun. That's it for explorers.
Okay, thank you, Carla. And guess what? What's the most ideal gameplay candidate? All right. So it's actually the achiever. So let's just go back, all right, like what Carla said. So if you notice yung avatars, that's us. All right, so just recap, of course, the achiever. So again, this is the most ideal gameplay because the participants are already motivated and they're results oriented, or they know where they're going. They know their direction. And of course, achievers understand that particular principle more than any other player type. And then of course, killers. But don't worry, si Sir ditong icon mo. Wala namang sa aming for ang naging result is killer. Okay. And then, I'm not saying that it's negative, but
Right.
you just really have to know kung ano yung preference, of course, of your students. Meaning, do not expect that all of your students are the same, diba? So, every student, they have he or she has his or her own unique personality. Okay. And then, of course, explorer. So, like what Gladys mentioned. And I think you really have to take note the lower portion of our slides, the type of engagement or how you'll be able to engage these students. Because one, it's important to know what type of gamer, what's the type of the player, but at the same time, you have to know how to engage them. Okay? All right. So now, I'd like to ask our dear teachers, what gamified learning tools are you familiar with? All right. So please type your answers in the chat box if you are familiar with any gamified learning tool. So it could be a mobile app, or it could be a software, anything that you're familiar with that you consider a gamified learning tool. So please type it in the chat box. All right. Okay, I can see some of the teachers answered Kahoot, all right, PowerPoint, Slido, all right. I think they're familiar with some of the tools, all right. So don't forget, for our dear participants in Facebook, you may also type your answers in the comment section. We'll also take a look at it. Wordscape, okay. All right, and a lot more. So in our case, we just want to share, of course, the Duolingo. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Duolingo. So please say yes if you're, yes in the chat box if you're familiar with Duolingo. Let me just check if some of our teachers are familiar. Yes, all right. For some, no. All right, so Duolingo, it's actually, it could be, you can download it. It's a mobile app, but you can also use it using your web browser. So Duolingo, you will be able to learn new language, but gamified siya. So meaning, like for example, in this case, you will see on your screen. So you have to write this in Spanish. Good morning, nice to meet you. So how are you you just have to rearrange these words. So for kids or even us adults, diba, it's fun. I mean, you need to give it a try. So experience is the best teacher. So if I know that not all schools, or not as early as elementary or high school, diba? Now we don't require them to learn a new language, but it's fun learning new languages. All right. So now to discuss the two types of gamification, Sir D.
Okay. Thanks, Mitch. Now, in terms of the actual usage ng gamification, okay, again, part of our planning and part of structuring our lesson, okay, siyempre, dapat meron tayong awareness of how are we going to apply gamification. So that's where we will like to consider yung two types na sinasabi natin. One is structural and the other one is content. Okay, to explain the difference between the two, okay, next slide. Okay. Sa structural kasi, ang basic purpose of trying to apply gamification will be not to influence the design of the content, but merely for us to have a good navigation within the contents of that particular type of a lesson. Okay? So we need also to consider that in this particular aspect, we use yung elements ng game. Yung mga points, possible badges, possible achievement score, board, leaderboard, etc. and so on, so that we will be able to guide yung ating participants, ang ating mga estudyante, dun sa kanilang journey to each of the content of that particular lesson. Okay? So that's how we use gamification in terms of the structural component. Pagdating naman dun sa content, okay, that's where we would like to delve deeper into the objective of each type of a lesson, and then we use the game element also itself para lang mas ma-enhance natin yung ating way of communicating yung lesson dun sa loob mismo ng content. Okay? So there are two ways, again, in how we can use gamification. Yung una sinasabi natin structural is simply for us to have, for the participants or for students, to have a motivation in how to navigate the different contents of that particular course. So yun yung structural natin. Hindi natin ginagalaw yung actual laman ng lesson. Pero pag pumunta na tayo dun sa applying gamification on that particular lesson, paano ko enhance yung aking communication, paano ko steer yung interest nila para mas maintindihan nila yung laman nito, para mas ma-enhance yung kanilang understanding at mas ma-engage ko sila o mas ma-motivate ko sila, that's where the content component will come in. And then we apply now gamification using the same principle na meron akong point system, meron akong budget, etc. and so on, for us to be able to enhance how we deliver those type of courses. Thanks, Mitch. Okay. There are several rules which we need to follow. Okay. Ang unang-una sinasabi nga natin, second, First rule, first impression last. Importante to sa atin. Okay? Hindi lang dun sa naka face-to-face. Kasi pag face-to-face tayo interaction, siyempre, alam kagad natin dito na pag humarap tayo sa mga estudyante natin, dapat mukha akong teacher. Di ba? Just to relate to you, okay, when I was still teaching back in 1980s then, so bata pa ako noon, bagong graduate ako. Okay? So alam naman natin yung mga behavior sa UP. Ang behavior sa UP noon, okay, naka-t-shirt lang kami, naka-maong, okay? Tapos rubber shoes, yung maong mo, isang linggo mo sinusuot, so hindi mo alam, tumatayo na siya mag-isa. Okay? So, hi teacher ka, ganun pa rin ang attire mo kasi sa UP naman, wala namang formal attire, etc. and so on eh. So, when there are new students, you cannot distinguish sino ang teacher at sino ang estudyante. Okay? Lalo na kung new graduate ka. So, usually, I'm making that as a fun. Hindi ako uupo kagad dun sa harap ng mesa. Okay? Doon ako uupo dun sa row ng mga estudyante and I wait for them to come in. Okay? Pag medyo na-agitate na sila at naghihintay, darating kaya yung teacher, etc. and so on, that's where I stand up. Okay? I introduce myself as a teacher. Okay? So in that particular aspect, yun nga, yung first impression last. Depende kung ano yung inyong motivation. If you want to create an impact dun sa mga estudyante, okay, as something na terror, something na engaging, something na pwede ka na lalapitan, etc. and so on, it is something that you really have to plan. Okay? Hindi lang pagdating dun sa face-to-face class, maski sa online. Okay? May mga teacher, okay, I'm sorry to share this video, pero may mga nakikita ako minsan mga preschool teacher. Okay, siyempre, yung isang apo ko nag-online lesson. Okay? Nakikita mo nagtuturo naka-pambahay. Okay? Sa online lesson. So, yung mga parents will really be agitated na, ano ba yan? Teacher ba yan? Ba't ganyan itsura? Ba't hindi man lang nag-ayos? Etc. and so on. So, even if you are doing an online class, let's make ourselves presentable. Because the first impression na makikreate, lalo na kung ganito, na may video tayo, okay, will always have a lasting effect dun sa mga participants natin, sa mga estudyante. Okay? Yung first impression will create whether they will take you seriously, and they will tend to say, pwede kong skip lang yung klase dito, pwede lang ako matulog dito. O pwedeng i-on ko lang yung computer ko, hindi niya malalaman kung nandun ako sa harap ng computer ko o wala ako. Etc. and so on. Okay? And then, of course, the first 5 minutes of the class matter. Always do a planning on the first 5 minutes ng klase. Para lang yan, ini-introduce mo yung sarili mo sa isang tao. Di ba? Yung first impression kung paano mo ini-introduce yung sarili mo, paano ka nakipagkamay sa kanya, paano ka nakipag-eye contact sa kanya, will always have a lasting effect. Okay? And this will matter sa mga estudyante. Okay? If you really want to be respected, if you really want to be taken seriously by our students, then you should always have a plan on the first 5 minutes. Ano bang activity ang gagawin ko? Okay? Para alam kagad nila na, masaya tong klase na to, engaging to, interesado akong pumasok, etc. and so on. Yung first 5 minutes na to, inantok na sila. Then they will be expecting that for the next session, lagi nakapatak sa utak nila, aantokin ako sa klase ko. Okay? Okay, wala akong gana dito. A-attend lang ako para sa attendance pero hindi ako magpa-participate, etc. and so on. Okay? So yun, the first impression last. Okay? And a key, medyo mahirap to, lalo na kung walang face-to-face interaction now. You learn every student's name. Okay? Ito yung challenge. Okay, I'm holding online classes also. Okay, sa De La Salle University. And syempre iba yung madali mong maalala yung pangalan kung nakikita mo sila as a group at nakare-recognize mo, itong kulot na to, ito siya. Itong may salamin, ito siya. Ito yung madalas umupo sa harap, ito siya, etc. and so on. Pero pagdating kasi sa online class, it's really a little bit of a challenge to be able to recognize and associate the name which is student. But we should exert effort. Kasi sa mga estudyante rin, kahit ilagay natin yung sarili natin, when you hear your name being called, di ba? Miss Mills, Miss Carla, etc. and so on, it create an impact sa estudyante na, kilala niya ako. So, kung sakaling hindi ako magpa-participate o kung sakaling bigla akong mag-absent, maaalala niya, mare-recognize niya kasi kilala na niya ako. Okay? O kaya, hindi magloloko ko sa klase niya. Di ba? So, it also serves more sa atin for us to be able to recognize the student, but at the same time, yung mga estudyante will also be aware, kilala ako ng teacher na to, hindi ako makapagtago sa likod, hindi ako makapagbulakbol kasi kilala niya ako. Okay? And sometimes, we have to go into a self-introduction game. Lalo na kung ito yung mga new students. Okay? Ito yung pwede nating pasukan ng other techniques in how to gamify the process, yung self-introduction. We want to make it as interesting and as memorable as possible. Okay? Wag na yung, tayo ka nga, introduce yourself, say your name, etc. and so on. Tapos upo ka na. Okay? No impact. Napaka-boring na process to do the self-introduction. Parang lang nagpalipas ka lang ng oras. Okay? Nagpatay oras ka lang. So, you have to think of ways and how are you going to do that self-introduction game. Also, para yung mga estudyante mo will be able to have an appreciation at the same time, it create an impact to them that during the first day of the class, during the first session of the class, ito yung significant activity that we did. And I am motivated because of this activity. Okay. The next one, Ms. Milch. Okay. So, ito yung sinasabi natin in terms of the introduction. We should always have a distinction between what is the difference between an icebreaker and an energizer. Okay. Bago ko puntahan to, siguro, can you chat? Okay, if there is a difference between an icebreaker and energizer sa mga teachers? Sabihin nyo lang, with difference, without difference. Same na lang, sige. Same or different? Yung icebreaker and energizer. Tingnan muna natin yung sagot ng mga teacher natin. Dun sa ating, okay. May sumagot. Si Ma'am Flor. Okay, different. Si Sir Rowan, different. Si Ma'am Maricel, different. Si Miss Evelyn, different. Si Miss Joyce, different. Si Miss Sheena Joy, different. Si Sir Owen, different. Si Miss Wendy, different. Okay, si Miss Marilu, different. Okay, si Miss Mary Jane, different. Miss Livy, okay, halos lahat sinasabi different. Okay? Okay? So, tama tayo. Okay? There is a difference between the icebreaker and energizer. It is basically based on the intention of the activity. The icebreaker, sabi nga dito sa definition na sa deck natin, used to break the ice, get people to know each other, and make them comfortable to participate in the group. So, these are things that we are doing usually in the first session days. Okay? Wherein yung mga magkakasama sa grupo ay hindi pa magkakakilala. So, they tend to be shy with each other. Okay? They tend to be not participative kasi nahihiya sila. Baka yung isa, pag tanong ako ng tanong, baka sabihin, mapapil ako. Okay? O kaya tanong ako ng tanong, baka sabihin, masyado akong wise, etc. and so on. O iba naman, tatahimik, hindi mag-share, etc. and so on. Kasi nahihiya siya. Akala niya mali yung sinasabihin niya. Kaya hindi siya sagot. So the intention of the icebreaker will be for each one to have comfort. Okay? In how are you going to participate in that particular group. Yung in some parts, yung energizer, sabi nga natin, ito yung usual activity that we are doing. Probably, kung naka-experience kayo ng mga seminar, kailan ba pumapasok yung energizer? Okay? Okay. Yung energizer, usually dumarating yan pagkatapos ng lunch break. Di ba? Kasi sabi nga namin, lalo na yung mga nagla-lecture, yung after lunch, ito yung mga peligro de ora. Okay? Ito yung, alam naman natin yung mga traits natin, pag busog na busog tayo galing sa lunch, parang mas masarap humiga muna, di ba? Mas masarap mag-inat-inat muna, etc. and so on. Okay? So, yung energizer na yan are really meant to energize. Okay? To put in more energy both sa teacher and sa participant. Okay? Let's have an example on the next slide. Ms. Mills. Okay? So, magsubok tayo, icebreaker. Okay? So, ito yung mga things that you have to be innovative, you have to be creative, and how are you going to put in a game, practice, okay, dun sa isang activity na icebreaker. Okay? Let's have an example, halimbawa. Okay? Our teachers can join us dun sa chat. Okay? What is the adjective that best describes you using the first letter of your name? Okay. Let's have 1 minute for everyone to think. Okay. What is the best adjective that will describe you using the first letter of your name? Isip din kayo, Mills, Miss Carla, Gladys.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I just want to recognize.
Wow, si Miss Alma, active. Okay.
We're live right now.
Active.
There are also participants that are chatting sa live.
Sige, ma'am. Si
Feed
Miss
na.
Minerva,
Joyce.
maganda si Miss Minerva, modest. Miss Lorna.
Joyce the
Evelyn,
Jolly.
energetic. Yes.
Lorna the
Wow.
Loving.
Okay, ta?
Uh-huh.
So, this particular type of activity, as you can see, elicit not yung automatic response coming from us. Okay? Yung maganda sa activity kasi na to, it also gives us a way to think about ourselves also. Diba? Oy, si Miss Regina, humble. Ma'am, hindi naman letter R yung humble, ma'am. Okay? Dapat starting from R. Okay? Si Miss Joy, Joy Gal.
What
Sige,
type
ikaw,
po?
Miss Mills. Okay, what is the adjective that will describe you starting with the letter M?
M. Tagalog, sir, maganda.
Ah.
Pag, pag English, sir, ano?
Buti hindi ko midlat.
Hindi naman sinabi yung language.
Wala namang sinabi, sir, kung English or Tagalog. Pero sige,
Okay.
pag English, marvelous milk.
Okay. Miss Carla.
Actually, parehas kami ni Ma'am Celeste. Caring.
Caring
Wow.
Carla.
Caring
Ay, si Miss Rowan,
Carla.
pinalitan na. Romantic na daw siya ngayon.
How about you, Miss Gladys?
Oh, si Miss Lindy. Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
Oo nga eh.
Miss Gladys, ikaw.
Baka kumulog naman. Gorgeous po.
Ako magkatotoo.
Okay. So, yung ito, di ba? Ito yung one of the, no, we put certain fun in that particular type of activity. So, we put in yung ating sense of a game that we put fun, we put entertainment. But at the same time, okay, we try to put certain way na magising din sila sa icebreaker na meron silang certain way of remembering what happened to that, di ba? Siguro yung mga naglalagay dyan na pretty, sexy, etc. and so on, siguro after the session, we will always remember, ay, bakit ba yung nilagay kong word ko to describe myself? Pwede ko pala ibahin. Baka naman masyado akong mayabang o masyado akong modest in the word that I put in. Okay? Other example will be, merong usual thing. Okay? Pero ito, medyadong, you can do innovation. Meron yung mga NMM icebreaker wherein you try to pass a box containing several colored items. So, pwedeng NMM. Kung ano yung ma-pick up mo, that's the thing that you will be talking about. Okay? Kung green, talk about your hobby. Kung yellow, you talk about your favorite book. From red, you talk about your hometown. Okay? Yung orange, you talk about your favorite food. So, you put a twist on that particular type of activity for you to be able to solicit, okay, yung mga responses from the participants. Okay? Mitch, you're raising hand, Ms. Bilge?
Yes, sir. I just want to share kasi now, di ba, we can see naman sa social media trending yung mga wheel of names. So meaning they can also create yung maybe wheel of colors or wheel of M&Ms.
Yes,
para,
yes.
diba, they can...
Para medyo online ang dating.
Yes, sir. Kasi hindi tayo makapag-pass around ng M&Ms this time.
Okay. So how do you differentiate with sabi nga, energizer? So we have an example also of energizer. Next slide, Ms. Bilge. Ayan. Siguro naman lahat tayo may alam kung ano ibig sabihin ng hep hep hooray. Di ba? Meron ba dito may hindi alam ng hep hep hooray? Di ba? Ito yung mga usual games na napapanood ko, nakikita ko during webinar Kasi ito talaga yung nabubuhay yung mga tao. Okay? During after lunch session, patayuin, 5 minutes lang tayo, hep hep hooray, hep hep hooray, hep hep hooray, etc. and so on. Kaya after that, energize na yung mga tao, buhay na sila. So, yun yung objective of that particular type of an energizer game. Okay? Medyo siguro in this particular, okay, in this particular type of a session, hindi siya, sabi natin, ano objective nun? Simple lang objective nun, to re-energize the people. Okay? It may not have a direct impact on the topic or the lesson that we are discussing, pero we are using that particular tool to again move back the participants into the session. Okay? Para hindi sila lumipad, hindi sila mawala, hindi sila magkaroon ng time to wander around yung utak nila. Okay? So, one other example that has been put up here is yung count out Jedi numbers. So, ito, pwede natin sabihin. Halimbawa, tayo, okay. Wala si Miss Carla, di tayong tatlo lang dito, Miss Milch, saka Miss Gladys. Okay? So, ito yung game na. A group must count up to certain number, taking turns in random order with no people speaking at the same time. Okay, so dito, anyone can go. Okay, we just count 1, 2, 3, 1, hanggang sino yung magkaroon ng redundant o duplicate. Okay, so we'll start. Okay, Miss Mills, unmute mo na mic mo. Okay, Miss Gladys, okay. 1,
Let's try, sir, na hindi tayo magkasabay-sabay.
Sige. Okay. 1.
2.
Buhay? Uy, bagal. Uy,
Sorry, hindi ako
Wala, buhay na buhay. Kaya
nakaabot.
sunod-sunod. Hindi, pwede ka pa humabol, Miss Carla.
Pwede ka pa
Sige.
umabol.
Oh, sige.
3.
1.
2.
3.
3.
Sabay kayo.
Kasabay nagkapalitan kami. So,
Oh.
okay. Kung sino nagkapalit, out na. So, hanggang you are able to sustain the game. So, in this particular case, bakit siya naging energizer? Because you now create some focus. Okay? You try now yung utak nila, hindi ka pwedeng tutulog-tulog, hindi ka pwedeng aantok-antok kasi dapat buhay ka, buhay yung utak mo, buhay yung tenga mo to be able to listen and be able to anticipate. Okay? Who will be doing or what will be the next move dun sa activity. Okay? Thank you, Ms. Mills.
Thank you, Sir D. Okay, and to discuss the next part.
Ako pa rin pala to. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Some other rules. Okay? Parang sa akin napunta lahat yung rules no? Kasi ako yung ako daw yung pinaka-may edad sa
Kami
grupo.
naman. Meron na.
Killer ka daw kasi, sir. Hindi, joke
Killer.
lang.
Okay, second rule is
Energized.
you keep the classroom engaged. Okay? This is important. Alam naman natin to Maski hindi sa online session, maski dun sa actual face-to-face. But sabi nga natin, mas challenging ngayon kasi wala kang benefit of a physical interaction between the student. Okay? So you keep the classroom engaged. First, how do you keep it? Set clear expectation. Set clear expectation. Even if you are doing an online lesson, para lang yung seminar. When you start the session, dapat klaro sa mga estudyante what will be the topic to be discussed today and what will be the expected accomplishment for today. Okay? Hindi pwedeng basta ka na lang papasok, mag-i-start ka ng lesson, tapos bahala na kung ano yung abutan ko, kung ano yung matapos, mag-ring ang bell, at kung ko tatapusin yung lesson. Okay? Kasi sa part ng mga estudyante ngayon, especially on online class, dapat sa simula pa lang, structured na din sa utak kasi nila, ano ba yung gusto kong accomplishment for this 1-hour session. Okay? So parang yung kanina, although hindi natin masyado elaborate, okay, we made it clear that the objective for today's session will be for you to be for us to share with you some lessons in how to apply gamification in preparing for your classes. Okay? So dapat clear yun. Okay? Second, para na-engage sila, we try to put in certain challenges along the way. Okay? Challenges could also be in the form of certain games, what we are doing right now. Challenges in terms of certain activity that will make them think, be engaged, and participate in the discussion. Yung third is flip the classroom. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng flip the classroom? Pag nasa classroom kasi tayo, alam natin ng mga teachers to, hindi pare-pareho yung pacing ng mga estudyante natin. Okay? There are certain students na medyo active sa klase natin. Therefore, they get all the attention that is being needed. Pero meron naman tayong mga estudyante na passive pero they can work on their own. Okay? Meaning, alam naman natin na kahit hindi sila nagpa-participate, alam nila yung lesson o nakuha nila kung ano yung objective na gusto nating impart. When we say flip the classroom, we do the sharing, we do the lesson, we do the teaching, even outside of the classroom. So dito pumapasok ng some of the technique nung sa asynchronous learning that has been discussed before. Okay? We also share the lessons outside of the classroom. So that pagdating dun sa classroom, we'll be able to focus on more important matter. So halimbawa, may reading tayo. Okay? Mayroon kang assigned reading. You don't put out that assigned reading during the classroom hours. First 30 minutes, magbasa kayo. Okay? After 30 minutes, babalikan ko kayo kung tapos na kayo magbasa. We can do it outside of the classroom. We can already assign those reading materials outside of the classroom para pagpasok, productive na tayo. We can already start discussing the lesson. O kung may mga question man about challenges that they have encountered during that lesson, matatanong na natin. Okay? Yun ibig sabihin ng flip the classroom. So, yung mga estudyante, pagpasok ko, since nabasa ko na yung lesson at alam ko na kung anong tatanungin ko, I can readily go into an engagement dun sa teacher. Kasi alam ko na, okay, ang pag-uusapan namin ngayon itong lesson 12, chapter 12. Ito na yung mga tanong ko. Ito yung hindi ko naintindihan. So I'm already prepared to go into that particular lesson. And if possible, we try to integrate educational video game, digital storytelling. Storytelling is a strong component in how we do teaching now. Okay. Dati akala natin yung storytelling, ano yan yung kwentong kutsero lang na gagawa ka lang ng istorya, etc. and so on. Okay? But it has been proven, okay, even in the advanced school, that storytelling is an effective tool to impart lessons to the student. Okay? Storytelling is already a science and an art by itself. Even in master's class, there is already a subject about storytelling. Kasi it has already been proven that when we hear certain story being shared to us, mas nag-open up yung utak ng mga estudyante. Mas nagiging interesado sila. Okay? Ano ba yung lessons dun sa story na to? Okay? Ano ba yung mga experiences na ma-associate yung sarili ko dun sa story na to? Okay? So we create certain videos, we create certain stories, we create certain materials that will engage that digital storytelling. And it is one of the most effective way of imparting lessons to our students, okay, by creating those stories. And then, syempre, hindi may iwan yung last 5 minutes. Kailangan may recap tayo. Hindi pwede pagdating ng lesson, bing, tapos na tayo, okay, close na tayo, leave the session, etc. and so on. Okay, you always have to leave room para din last 5 minutes mo, you will be able to do a recap, summarize everything that you have learned on that particular session, okay? And of course, go back. Okay? Kasi nga, pag naggagawa tayo ng lesson, pag nai-impart tayo ng lesson, as we go along, maski yung mga estudyante naman natin, tayo, personal experience Kung halimbawa, 3 hour yung session, pagdating ko dun sa 3rd hour, nakalimutan ko na ano nga ba yung pinag-usapan dun sa 1st hour, sa 2nd hour. So the last 5 minutes, we take advantage of that to be able to engage the student and create a recap of whatever are the topics or essential or significant points that has been raised during that particular session. And along the way, always create learning checks. Okay? So in between of the lessons, halimbawa kung 3 hour yung lesson mo, 3 hour yung lecture mo, in between, you create certain perspective for you to be able to check yung mga topic ko ba naiintindihan pa. This is also where you can put in yung gamification. Yung learning check, okay, yung gamification can have 2 purposes. Serves as a learning check, at the same time, increase the engagement of the participants. So dito papasok na yun, sinasabi natin, paano ba ako magiging resourceful, paano ba ako magiging innovative, still accomplishing what is the objective of that particular learning checks. Okay. Thanks, Mitch. Next deck. Yan. Okay. Ms.
Okay,
Carla?
so for the foster competition, so before I talk about how can they foster competition or sila teachers na on how they can foster this in the classroom, I'll share to you the advantages on why do we need to foster competition. So for this aspect, actually we cannot merge being a parent and also being a teacher. So I'm sure merong mga parents dito and also what they do is teacher naman sila no, for their occupation. So sometimes for the fostering competition at home, it creates a different image to children no, based in child psychology. So it can create like a unsportsmanlike practices or behavior. So it's how we really how do we really want to foster it at home and at school is different. So magkaiba siya. So as educator, so we are looking at competition in education, there is always a advantage and disadvantage. As mentioned by Sir Derek earlier, the objective should be clear to the students, but also as educator, it has to be clear then on what is your objective as a teacher. So you have to carefully package the appropriateness or how yung safety ng students on what can they acquire from this gamification that you will be conducting. So you make sure that one of the main objectives is to really discipline them, and it's also a driving force to students to learn. So that's the most efficient, should be the most important thing that you have to acknowledge when conducting gamification to your class. So first advantage is know more about themselves. So this is already the effect of gamification to your students. So the spirit of competition will actually reveal the strengths and weaknesses. No, as mentioned by Miss Milch earlier when we took the Bartel competition or Bartel test. No, so this actually provides an input on what the person or what the student is or yung character niya. But at the same time, we are keen as educators on ano yung result na lumabas kay students. So we gain the knowledge of how students really cope with negative problems. So it's also based from our research actually as early as preschooler, they already know or they can already discover what motivates them or how what to learn or how to harness their skills. So imagine as a preschooler, no, kaya na nila to discover how to cope with hurdles or with the, kunyari, inulit mo yung same task, no? Alam nila, inulit na to ni teacher eh. Dati, ito yung naging result ng ginawa ko. So, iibahin na nila yon. So, as early as that age, they can already discover or they can already learn from gamification. So, as educators, it's our responsibility to see through the changes to our students. Again, nag-iiba-iba yung results niya. So, we can ask them to take this game or to make use of this game before the lecture and after the lecture, kasi you will see the changes. And I think in gamification, more than, of course, we motivate them through incentives, to grading systems, to point system, but at the same time, it's really, as mentioned earlier, it's the journey and the changes that happened, to be specific with the behavior of the child. So second, it molds their personality. So as mentioned, behavior is actually a big factor in gamification. So students may show a wide spectrum of competitiveness. As mentioned or from our psychologist Eric Erickson, they mentioned children are like painters. So basically, from their behavior itself, you already know if there's something wrong, nakikita mo na sila through their action. They don't really need the one-on-one, no? So again, you have to check on the demographics, as mentioned by Ms. Milch, no? That's one component or element that we really need to check on. Kasi depende with the stage on how we will see kung may pagbabago ba with the personality of this student when we conducted in gamification. Medyo nakaka-relate si Ms. Gladys, no? I can see a nod from her. So the third is, the objective of this is to learn, for them to learn or this relationship. So competitions would always produce winners and losers. That's the reality, no? So if you want na medyo tayo yung type of teacher na ayoko kasi siyang mahiya, no, yung effect, that's really how it is. That's how the world works as well. So hindi man niya ma-experience yon with your class or with the game na binigay ninyo, but for the next year, no, so nag-high school siya, nag-college siya, he or she will experience that kind of the reality of winning and losing. So as educators, to the students, we have to consider that gamification it's not all about winning and losing. It's about you observe how did they develop their communication skills, did they develop their social skills, and as mentioned by Franklin Roosevelt, it also promotes cooperation. So dito natututo siya na hindi ko siya friend, kaya lang pinair kami ni Sir Derek eh. So, paano ba yun? So, paano ko siya gagawin? So, those hurdles, because of course, you will encounter that in reality. So, once they learned how to win and how to lose, the feeling, ang sinasabi the feeling of winning and losing, so dapat yun, they should come across that kind of experience or that feeling. No? So sometimes there is a fact that they take it home, and then in terms of their siblings, instead of promoting rivalry, they promote love, empathy, cooperation, no? Listening to your siblings or to your elders. So basically, these are the things that can be developed when we foster competition, especially in gamification. So also, values learned through competition. So as mentioned earlier, of course, hindi na maaalis yung competitiveness ng student. It will come out. And also the cooperation, the collaboration, and also the test on sports, no? Or it provides also life unique skills, no? The sportsmanship, no? Which is very important, no? Kahit we encounter when we talk to friends lang, no? May iba dyan napipikon kagad kapag ginajoke, no? So, hindi pwedeng biruin, hindi pwedeng lokohin, ganun. So, pag they've already experienced that kind of feeling, they can already imply it even to social gathering or engagements or even in their family. Okay, last is learn. They also it promotes learns to deal with stress. So since it's a game, it's about winning and losing. So basically, it will create stress during the journey. So it's basically we have to just really, as educator, we really have to know what's happening or to see through the attitude of students. Of course, they will not talk about it, but as educators, we have to keen kung ano yung behavior na pinapakita nitong student whenever they win, whenever they lose, no? And we also need to talk to them and make sure na it's how creative we are. We can ask them to create a paper, we can talk to them, depende rin with the demographic of the class. Okay, next slide please. Okay, so when we promote foster competition, so there are models or frameworks that we can follow. So in terms of gamification, it doesn't have to be out in the web. You can also create your own. No? Depende with what tools or what software do you have. So this is actually a model, a player-centered design model, wherein if you are the type of teacher who wants to create your own game or gamification, no, how to gamify the lecture. So number one is you have to make sure, as you can see from the model, the player is at the center. No? So basically, siya yung main focus of that game. So you have to identify who is this player. Are you promoting a player na dapat disciplined in terms of rules? Are you promoting, are you looking at a player na magaling sa algebra? So you have to identify what player are you molding in this game. So it's a very vital element when creating a gamified type of lecture. Okay, next is understand the mission. So as you can see from the right side of the framework, it talks about scenario should be considered in terms of the scenario of the player in the game. So identifying the result or the outcome na pwedeng gusto makuha ni students. So of course, teacher will also base their grading system or the point system through that desired outcome. And then, of course, setting the appropriate mission for the gamification project. At the end of the day, of course, the gamified project should have an objective. So that's also part of the mission. And then understanding human motivation that's below player. So as you can see, what motivates the player. So you can create elements, no? Are these badges? Are these points? Are this getting a better character from the next level to from the past level that they've been? So it's basically, you have to create a motivator element for them to yearn for the desired outcome, which is the mission earlier. Okay, and then last, as you can see, the measure, manage, and monitor is within, or it's within, it's outside layer of the, it's within the circle, pero it surrounds the all elements. So basically, you have to continuously measure, monitor, and manage the result or the outcome of the game or the progress of the player. Yeah. So basically, if you want to create your own game and you have help from other people no, that can do the software, can do the structured points, this can be a good framework for you to consider. Okay, next slide, please. So this is another type of that you can consider in a gamified project or lecture. So leaderboard. So as you can see, there are ranking in terms of who's heading or who has better points than the next or the top three. So showing the user in general, leaderboard shows your place or your rank. It shows immediately how high is your score from the others. So always make sure that, of course, the users would always aim for a higher or climbing up the leaderboard. So it's actually contextual. As you can see, there are the names, no? So I can recognize who's doing well, the points, and yung may mga 24, 3, and 8, no? So what are these components of the game? It shows the level, and also what they say in a competition, mas keen ka to those na kilala mo sa leaderboard than yung those na player na hindi mo naman kilala. So ako for sure, if I'll be part of this game, of course, I wanna go ahead Miss Gladys, Miss Milch, Derek, pero if may ibang players na hindi ko kilala, I don't compete much with them. So that's actually the effect of leaderboard, no? And also, it should be updated continuously. So, based from the rank, syempre, students or players will look at it every time they do something or every time that you ask them to do a certain task. So, if you don't update this, diba, hindi siya motivator to our students or to our players. I want to share something outside leaderboard. So actually, when they say it has to be updated, there's a willpower instinct behind this leaderboard. Okay, sorry, magpapaka-deep tayo ng konti about leaderboard. So what I learned about willpower instinct is there's such thing as immediate gratification and delayed gratification. So for immediate, they say it creates a short-term objective. Kasi gusto niya makuha niya kagad yung rank na yun eh. Or gusto niya maunahan ko kagad si Sir Derek eh, kasi nandun siya, nakikita siya ng mga classmates namin na uuna siya. No, there's the effect also is it's short term because they just want to be sometimes they want to be noticed or they want their teachers to give them better grades than Sir Derek, no? Kasi for sure if there's ranking, there's a difference between our grades. And delayed gratification is something that you protect your long-term goals or your future goals. Meaning, for example, there's a leaderboard, pwedeng nag-iipon lang siya ng power niya, no? And then, pagdating na ng towards end of the lecture, dun niya gagamitin lahat ng power niya. So, something like that. So, it's a willpower instinct. It's both good. It's just make sure lang how do you want to promote a certain gamified project that you want to instill in your class. No? Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, this is custom. Next is custom badges. So it's another key motivator that you can use in your classes, no, or in your trainings. So this is actually done by Union Bank. I was part of this virtual career conversations along with Ms. Milch. We were part of this. We conducted a session in terms of career journey, in terms of how can they get a job, how do they know if it's a good opportunity for them. So we just created this logo, no, along with our employer branding team in Union Bank, and then we just actually search kung ano yung maganda na nakalagay with the badge, no, and we sent this out to our participants for them to know, para siyang certificate, no, but it's very creative. creative, it's nice to look at, no? And it's something that they can also promote in their in online platform. So iba na yung badge ngayon, no? So it's not printed. But we also sent out, we printed this out also na sticker form naman, or laptop sticker. So that's how you can be creative, and you can make use of your own tool in terms of promoting or motivating your students to accomplish something from your lecture. So yeah, that's one of the example that you can actually make do of what you have. Okay, next slide, please. So another approach is let the student teach. So for the map class time and map non-classroom time, I think this was somehow related to flip, ano nga yung kay Sir Derek, yung flip approach, no? In terms of whether synchronous and asynchronous. So basically, I'll share na lang the distinction between map classroom time and map non-classroom time. So again, for the let the students teach, it actually promotes the students not just to learn in school, but also for them to know kung anong na-experience natin as you guys, no, as educators, na para malaman din nila na mahirap pala mag-teach, no, or these are the responsibility pala of our teachers or our professors. So that's the reason why we also promote let the student teach in your class. So for the map classroom time and map non-classroom time, basically the difference lang is that when you ask them in map classroom time, you divide the time in the class. So say for example, you have a 4-minute class or lecture or 1-hour class. So you divide the classrooms or the students, sorry, to a certain schedule, and then they will teach, no? Vice versa. And then for the non-classroom, you can meet each student basically depending on if there's a outside the time of the classroom already. So of course, you have to brief your students also in terms of how can they teach their classmates as well. So basically, you have to meet them and guide them, no, on how to teach their students. Okay, so when they say that you teach another student, sometimes it's different. They create a different mindset kasi when they are teaching their student, their classmates, and also they're just classmates. So basically, mas nagpe-prepare sila whenever they are told to teach, no? That's why for this approach, it's actually it's better or it's beneficial for the students to know as early as possible. So before pa lang mag-start yung class ninyo or first day of class, you have to tell them that this is part of my objective. So let the students to be letting them teach their classmates. So the third is detailed expectation. Okay, so in terms of the expectation, you have to share to them what are the lectures or what are the subjects that they will be teaching, because not all the lectures can be taught by the student. And it's not everything naman that you can also, that you can provide all the guidelines for each and every student. So do not naman foster or do not naman ask your students to teach everything or all their lectures, no? So you have to choose between those subjects na kaya lang nilang ituro sa classmates nila or is beneficial to the student. Tutoring is also one thing that that promotes teaching inside the class or in your class. So basically, they say that when you choose, kunyari per pairing sila or per group, you don't inform them na I will be pairing you to a best student and then yung isang student is in need of help. No? So do not promote such kind of approach in this kind of teaching inside the class. No? So you have to make sure that it has to be random and it has to be well assigned so they are prepared. And sometimes kasi it's not about knowing the lecture or how they do it together. You also have to give them time to be comfortable working together. Whenever they tutor the other person or the other person will be the one helping lang, no, in terms of research or anything like that. So you have to be clear lang on the task. And then make adjustments. So that's the last for the let the student teach. So students would make mistakes even as teachers. You would sometimes no, there are mistakes that we do, and whenever as teachers we make mistakes, diba, we're not naman called by our supervisor outright, no. Sir Derek, meron kang lecture na parang hindi naman to aligned with your subject or something like that. So that's how we treat our students as well. You have to make sure that you just make sure that you observe your students on how they do on how they go through this adjustment, and of course talk to them, no. At the end of the day, they mentioned for this approach is that you're not keen, you shouldn't be keen on their grades, but the development of the student whenever they do or whenever they teach, no, or whenever you observe them to perform inside the class. And the adjustment na nakita ninyo to your students, that's the basis already if they have developed or did they learn from you as an educator. Okay. All right, for evaluate better, this will be discussed by Ms. Gladys. Is that correct?
Thanks, Carla. Ayan. So, last but not the least, of course, that we will be very much observing or very obvious if we gamify a lesson, a subject matter, is we will be able to evaluate better. So, yung na-discuss nga ni Miss Carla kanina, we will be able to award badges. Yan. So the badges would signify or would acknowledge that the learners has gone through the learning path, and then they have attained or they have achieved certain levels. Or sa atin as educators, that would mean that they have learned a subject or two in our lesson. So they reflect the affirmations for their significant achievements. So that is the effect of the badges for the learners. And para sa atin naman, if we know as educators, we know that we awarded these badges. Kumbaga, in layman's term, markado sila na sila yung naka-achieve nito, sila yung marunong na ng ganito. Yan. So, gamifying a lesson using badges would help us evaluate the learnings of our students better. Yan. So, next is the leaderboards. Yan. Okay, so yan. So, sabi nga ni Miss Carla kanina, leaderboards, meron niyang hugot in terms of comparing or fostering the competition. But at the same time, it also promotes the healthy competition. So the dashboards or yung pinipresent na ranking ng leaderboards will be used to provide a view of the overall progress, not only for the teachers, for the educators, but also for the learners. So where they are. So they don't just attend the lesson or the class for the mere sake of attending. They know when they attend, where they are when they attend. Kumbaga, kapag nag-sign in sila sa class natin o umattend sila sa class natin, alam ko na dapat pagkatapos ng class na to, gumalaw ako or may inaakyat ako dun sa rank ng leaderboard. If that would be it would be best, of course, to set that mindset in our class. So dapat lahat tayo or lahat tayo sa class, magsiksikan tayo sa taas ng leaderboard kung possible yon. Bakit hindi, 'di ba? Of course, sa educator medyo tumbling yon in terms of grading, but of course, syempre, acknowledgement and appreciation yun na natuto talaga yung students natin. Diba? So yun yung photographic or pictorial view ng progress ng learners natin. So that will make a gamified lesson evaluate the lesson or the learnings better. So we have the badges, the leaderboards, and then of course we will also have would be our instant feedback. Ayan. So with the instant feedback that we see at the end of the game or at the end of the lesson, so sabi nga natin kanina, we have the affirmation or the acknowledgement from the learners, what they already know, or if the lesson has been effective or not. And the scores later on will be the indicators of their performance. So closely aligned yan sa mga achievers natin. Yan, of course. And closely monitored by the killers of our classroom. Ayan, natalo ko ba si ganito? Nataasan ko ba siyang ganyan? So it's quite a negative connotation, but then again, of course, we know that if they have reached the score or if they have seen their rankings as instant feedback, or if they have received the badges, they know where they are in terms of learning the lesson, but at the same time achieving the goal of the game. So kumbaga sabay. So para naman dun sa ating mga explorers and socializers, so of course we should be able to acknowledge also or recognize some badges for them. So ano ba yon? May mga subject tayo na dapat talagang mas ma-recognize or matututunan if they are work together, not as an individual. So doon natin pwedeng i-motivate or i-recognize yung socializing or explorer type or portion ng ating mga students. And we can very much evaluate how they have learned or how they have achieved or how they have practiced those types of gaming personalities through our lesson. So, yan.
Okay, thank you, Gladys.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Carla, Sir Derek, and Gladys. Now, we'll apply what we have learned. So, one of the things that we've learned is to have learning checks, diba? So, let's ask the audience. All right, so here's the statement. Points, leaderboards, and badges are great examples of, hint, what type of gamification? So again, please type your answers in the chat box. All right. So hint, what type of gamification? Points, leaderboards, and badges are great examples of... Sige. I know you guys listened earlier. So I'll give you an additional hint. All right. So is it structural or content? Okay. Let me just type it here in the chat box. Structural or content? Okay. All right. So I can see Ma'am Evelyn, structural. Okay. Let's wait for the others. Miss Eloy, structural. How about the others? All right. Miss Marjorie, Miss Marilu, and Miss Alma, structural. Let's check. And Miss Eden, structural. Let's check what's the answer. All right. So yes, the correct answer is structural.
Structural ba? Ayan.
Yeah. Structural gamification. All right. So good. Now let's go to the next question. Ask the audience again. So blank are used to break the pace. These activities give participants an opportunity to laugh, have some fun, move around, or let their brains rest after a lengthy discussion. Kanina nagbigay si Sir D ng mga examples nito. So, okay. Sige, so nakita natin. So, may mga nag-answer. Let me check the chat box. Alright,
Interesting answers.
Yes, so mix pa rin. Alright. So, energizer from Miss Precious. Icebreaker from Miss Evelyn. Okay, so icebreaker. Let me check. Alright. So, of course, kasi here in the sentence, we said na break the pace. But remember, the answer here is energizer. Why? So, remember, icebreakers are usually used from the beginning lang of a session just to introduce yourselves or to get to know each other. While breaking the pace, so it's really more on energizing everyone. So like what na-mention namin earlier, yung example na Hep Hep Hooray or yung Jedi numbers, diba? So, or sometimes, diba, in class, we, especially sa grade school, diba, or in kindergarten, we ask the kids to dance. Diba? I'm sure si Gladys makaka-relate dito, yung kids niya kasi is, for sure may energizer sila teachers palagi, Glads.
Yes, yan na yung pinaka-PE nila.
Yes, parang I remember nga before, parang meron sila yung dance na parang fruit salad. Yung mini-mention nila yung mga fruits while touching or pointing the parts of their body, Glads.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, okay. So in summary, all right. So just don't forget when and how to use, these types of gamified learning or gamification. So if your content is boring for the learners, you have to double check din muna if it's really boring or not. Of course, you have to know the demographics or the profile of your participants. So the purpose, of course, or the benefits, it will improve the learner's engagement. It will also make learning fun and interactive. While you also have to know what's the reason why you're doing this, because not all activities requires gamification. So don't forget that. So you really have to determine. So do I want to improve the learning performance? So benefits, of course, again, of gamification, it improves knowledge absorption and retention because of the different types of activities. And then it also triggers a change in the mindset of our students. And at the same time, it influences behavioral change. So of course, it will start first with the mindset of the students, and then eventually will be able to change their behavior. And what problems are your students trying to solve, and how can gamification help them to do so? So we have to give the learners the opportunity to see the real world applications. And of course, we also have, like what I've mentioned, yung demographics, very important, enhancing the overall learning experience for all age groups. I think earlier, for the evaluation, they have mentioned the leaderboards and the scores. I think for most special science classes, students are very competitive. They always want to see, oh, what's my status? Ano na ba yung number ko if I'm still part of section 1 or section A, B? I think they have that ranking. And for some or most students, they prefer seeing their names on the board. But I think now, since virtual na tayo, maybe, I don't know if you guys are maintaining Facebook group, baka you can still post the top 10 per grading, or the top participants or the top scorers for a particular examination or quiz bee. I think you can still hold quiz bees online. And do I know what will make students take part of a gamification? So again, don't forget, you can ask your students, or you yourselves can check the Bartle test of psychology, the 4 types of gamers. We have the achievers, we have the killers, we have the socializers, and what's the other one? Explorers. All right. So, of course, we are not asking you to just stick with that. There are a lot of researches na mention about the different types of players. You can always research, and I think there are a lot pa din na ongoing din yung research. So you can always use and you can refer to those. Okay. So now, to share the sample online interactive activity, let's start with Slido. Gladys?
Ayan. So, Slido, it's one of the most frequently used tools, not only for online classes, but also for trainings, well, ngayon, virtual na webinars, seminars there. So, Slido, so you can probably open a separate browser to explore. So, it's in slido.com. So, what it can do for you is to have like a repository for the questions. So, kumbaga, dito sa ating Zoom, meron tayong Q&A box. So, if you're not using the same platform delivering your online classes, you can make use and create a free account in Slido. So that's slido.com. So not only does it enable us to collect and address questions kumbaga, we get of during the lecture or during the lesson. You can also create your some of your gaming strategies uh, using slido.com. So if you can go to the next slide for a quick video. Yan. So bago natin i-play, yan. So Slido, if you get to explore the site, every activity is called an event. So you can create an event, yan, every class, and then pwede mo siyang gawa ng hashtag. Yan. So yung hashtag, pwede tayo maging creative dyan. You can create a hashtag of the main topic that you'll have for that class, or you can also create a hashtag connecting the last class to this current class. Yan. So for example, literature, ganyan. Yung last chapter mo, ito nangyari. So parang telenovela. So ngayon, i-hashtag mo yung Slido mo pag open mo ng class kung ano yung pwedeng mangyari or ano yung aabangan nila for this literature lesson. Miss Milch? Yan. Play natin.
An event code is the code that
Do you have
participants
the audio?
join Slido during your time of the event. You can use letters or numbers, abbreviate your conference name, match it with your Twitter hashtag, or simply be creative with it. You can change it anytime. Just click on the code and customize it. The little tick mark will indicate whether the event code is unique during the set time period of your event. The participants will then just open a web browser, go to slido.com, type in the event code, and there they can start asking questions.
Gladys? Okay, I'll play the next video.
All right. So that's a quick how-to on creating an event in slido.com. So sabi ko nga, you can explore the site. Yeah, hear me? Yeah. The site, and then, yes, hello, yeah. And create the event. And yan. So there. So aside from the question and answers, there can also create polls and then quizzes on slido.com. So there, let's play the next video.
Great lectures can change your life. But that won't happen unless students are engaged. Now, imagine lectures full of interaction. Say hello to Slido for Education, the easiest way to engage your students with live polls, quizzes, audience Q&A. As you start your lecture, students join by scanning a QR code or entering a short code. Now, the fun begins. Run a poll to introduce your topic, check students' understanding, or just hear their feedback. Students can submit their questions throughout your lecture, and they can post them anonymously, so even the quiet ones can participate. To keep your students on their toes, wrap up your lecture with a quiz. And the best part? Slido integrates with all your favorite tools. Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Slides, and even Zoom Webinar for virtual or hybrid classes. The world's most innovative universities are using Slido to deliver more engaging lectures. Join them with Slido for Education.
Okay, I think Gladys is just trying to reconnect. But yes, you guys can use Slido. As we have seen on this video, we can, I mean, it's also used by a lot of famous universities, and you can incorporate PowerPoint, or you can also connect it to Zoom. All right. Okay, next. Carla?
Yeah.
All right. Or Gladys. All right. Are you back, Glads?
Yep. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yes, for the poll everywhere. Go ahead. Okay, so for poll everywhere, sige, Glads.
I can
All
proceed
right.
with
Okay, if you want, I'll
editing.
discuss. Yeah, I'll just discuss quickly the poll everywhere.
Okay.
So yeah, if you need an app or using your desktop version, you can also use this poll everywhere. So you can visit the website and create polls. I think if you guys are also using Zoom, there's also a button there wherein you can create polls and live yon when the students are also inside Zoom. I'm not sure for the other platforms if applicable siya, but everything is in Google naman. So if you need other types of polls, you can all or even download the mobile applications na similar to Paul. Before we proceed to the next part, just allow me to share my screen again. Just a moment. I'll just quickly discuss, Carla, the type form. All right.
Sure.
Just a moment. Let me just type, just me share my screen again. Let me check. Oops. Let me check. Okay, sharing my screen. Just a moment, sharing my screen. All right. So here, can you see my screen? Let me know if you can see my screen. All right. So for Typeform, this is also similar to MS Forms, Google Forms, or different types of forms that we use for survey. So if you go to typeform.com, just click sign up. Let me check. Can you see my screen, Carla or Gladys?
Yes.
Yes, all right. So here,
Yes,
cause,
go.
sure, because in my case, I've already created my account. So when you log in, you will see this dashboard. And then you can create a new type form.
Yep.
Or you can click, sorry, new type form. And then you will see here, template gallery on the left side. So you will also see some recommendations, featured, lead generation if you want a form or if you want to create a quiz, survey questionnaire, or even other evaluation, registration. So meaning it's easy because, for example, if you want to create a satisfaction survey, there are templates now on the right side. So like for example, customer feedback form template, let's click that. All right. But if you want to use this, just click again on the left side, use this template. All right. Okay. It's free, by the way. Because if I'm not mistaken, for some of the websites, you have to pay a certain fee if you want to use uh, the other templates. Like in this case, may button siya for upgrade, similar to the other platforms. So like here, so if you will notice, so we have na the sample. So how would you rate, for example lang, kunyari if you want to change this to how would you rate our webinar, for example. Diba? So, you can always change kung gusto mo na nagamitin lang the template. So here, number 2, all right. So may mga questions din siya. But let's try creating or adding a new question. So add a new question. So if you want, there's also an option here to create a thank you screen. Oops, yan. Or if you want to add, let's say, yung usual na ginagamit natin is rating, di ba? So kapag ka rating, so you can also add, if you notice, di ba, may tatlong, just a moment, may tatlong star here, but when you click, balik tayo ulit, when you click, for example, itong star dito sa left side, yung may nakalagay na 7, you can edit kung ilan ba yung gusto mo na lumabas sa screen mo. 7 stars ba yung rating? Up to 10. Pero usually, di ba, pag nagpaparate naman tayo is odd number. So, we can just write, for example, 5. And pwede rin nating palitan yung shape. So, if you want, usually sa rating is 1 to 5. But if you want different icons like hearts, user, thumbs up, crowns, you can also use this. Alright. So, for this case, let's just use thumbs up, for example. So, when you're done, just click X sa left side. For example, done na tayo with everything. Just quick, lang to, sharing. Let's publish, for example. So, in my case, kasi kanina I have tried publishing already. So, I just went back to my example. So, here. Alright. So, yeah, makikita mo na siya here. So, yung nagawa mo na Typeform. I think it's best pa din if you will also try different surveys. Like in our case, most of our questionnaires kasi naka-MS forms, for example. So, here, kunyari, ang ginagamit ko naman here is, same lang naman siya ng idea, ng framework. You have to create the title, the background, yung view niya lang yung nagbabago. With Typeform, nakita naman natin kanina yung difference. While with Microsoft Forms, usually ganito yung nagiging itsura niya. Same with Google Forms. So, how would you rate your experience? Let's answer kunyari 5. What did you like best? How can we improve? So, for example lang, NE, submit. So, it's just a test. And then, thank you for response. Take note that you can also edit or customize yung mga thank you message. But in this case, let me just close it. So, here, balik tayo ulit sa Typeform, another example. So, dito, pwede mo din siyang i-edit. Like what I've mentioned kanina, pag bumalik tayo sa add new question, kung gusto mong thank you screen, palitan, you can use you can add, let's go, an image. So, automatic din siya. If you're using the internet, you can easily choose for the photos, but you can also choose to upload. So, here, alright, let's pick this image lang. Add image. And automatic na siya that you will see here for the thank you message. So take note that you can use it not only sa thank you message, but even for the other questions then or dun sa first part. Okay. So again, if you want to preview, ito yung preview. So dahil ito pa lang yung na-create natin, ayan pa lang yung, kasi naka-template siya. So how happy were you with your purchase? Let's click, let's say 5. How would you recommend? 10. So, take note, may guide din siya. If you use Typeform for the first time or even Google Form, makikita mo siya here. So, there's an added logic jump. So, if you want your question to move to another question, and then, let's say, for example, next. By the way, you can go back by clicking on the lower right side, yung dalawang button here. All right, go back or move forward. So 10 is pretty good. For example, let's just type NA, submit. Then here, you will see dapat here the custom thank you screen kung naglagay kayo ng photo or ng image. And yeah, that's it. So it's easier or it's better if you will explore the website or the other survey websites na you prefer to use. Kasi sometimes may kanya-kanya tayong preference. Like in my case, I prefer using MS Forms because we're also using it in the office. But I think for the other websites kasi mas madami siyang option. Like if we want to create a virtual breakout room, so madali din siyang gawin kapag Google Form yung ginawa natin. If we want to, let's say, gamify, for example, if it's a history class and it's an exam, pero you want to make it virtual history breakout room, pwede naman siya. Pero that's gonna be using, let's say, Google Form or other types of forms. Okay? So allow me to share my screen once again, just to continue. All right, for the next part. All right. Carla?
Okay, so I'll be discussing like a very, I think some of our teachers are already familiar with Mentimeter. So we'll just run through just so we can see the format and familiarize ourselves. So Mentimeter is used when interacting with audience in a real-time manner. So next slide, please. So it's most of the time it's best used when you're about to start pa lang your session, just so you can actually gisingin yung audience ninyo, with the trivia or with the if you want to have an idea, if they have an idea about the topic that you're about to discuss. So next slide, please. So we'll share to you very briefly the screenshots of these tools that you can make use at least. So when creating Mentimeter or using Mentimeter, so you can either, as you can see, you can either use your Facebook account, so just click that, or email address and passwords. That's the usually things lang that they need for you to access this tool. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is how it looks like when you enter Mentimeter. So from the right, as you can see, there are question types. So it gives you a template or a format that you can follow, and it's good that you can actually explore these formats, no, kasi this how you will learn also. And if ever that you'll be doing a different quiz or trivia night or trivia lecture, no, it includes different kinds of lecture kasi that you'll be conducting, you will have an idea what format will be used or is needed, no. So it's good that you explore these kinds of options, so not just the ones that are just discussed to you, so that kasi these templates has its own usage, so depending on what you really want to know from your audience or from your students. Okay, so that's basically the type of questions on the right side, no? And also the layout. Okay, the next slide shows the below part of the right side. So basically, there's also content slide. So different on how your content will look like. So different from the type of questions earlier, it shows like if there's identification, ranking, multiple choice, and then the content would be the overall what will appear from the slide that you are creating or that you are presenting. Next slide would be if you will look at Mish, if you can help out lang in terms of cursor, can you point to the content just so they have an idea of this part, what it's about? So the content would most likely, that's where you can write your question, where you can type in your question. If you can see from the right side of your question, there's an icon of image wherein you can also include, no? So what I did there is that my question is, did you learn something new today? And then below that, below your question is the options on if what are the choices or the multiple choices. Okay. And then next slide would be I created. So I clicked, I included yes, I included no. So when I press the right side of the option of no, so if there's an image icon again that you can see, you can choose. There's GIF, there's image library, and you can even upload from your laptop, or from the gallery that you have in the computer. Next slide, please. And then there. So basically, generates, as you can see from the very top, that it generates the code automatically. So once you have created or you're done with the entire presentation. So I discussed this very briefly because I think everybody knows already Mentimeter. For some, it's just going to be being comfortable with how it looks like when you create your presentation. Okay, this is very familiar also to our teachers, Kahoot. So next slide, please. So Kahoot is basically it response, or it's a gamified response system that provides that you can set it up with the usage of music, point system, and images. So when you enter, as teacher, as the one creating the quiz or the presentation, you have to log into Get Kahoot. kahoot.com. So take note of that because your players or participants will be logging into a different site. No? So for the one creating the presentation, you have to go to Get Kahoot and then log in. Same thing as what is needed from Mentimeter. It's just email address and your password. And then you'll enter this system. As you can see, you can add your question right away. Next slide, please. And then when you press this add question, again, there's format or different templates on how you can actually ask the question in the next slide. And so I just typed the question that I want to ask. And then as you can see, the yellow arrow, that's where you can upload the image. Basically, if you want to give a clue on what the answer is about the question. Next slide. So I placed lang an image here. As you can see, there's an image na clue on what the answer is. Next slide. So image reveal will also come out, as you can see from the black arrow that I placed now on the right side. So you can actually fix the setup just like how Microsoft works now when we print our printable materials or reading materials. You can also include the choices below. As you can see, I included choices of the answer for the question. Next slide. Okay, and then when, don't forget to click the right answer, just so you know, no, kung baka you yourself, if madaming questions, nakalimutan mo na kung ano yung tamang answer. So it will flash kasi in the player's device, no? So don't forget to click the right answer. Next slide. So basically, you can also fix the time. No, so there's 20 seconds until I think 120 or 160, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the time per question or the duration of time given to answer per question. Next slide. So once you're done, of course, you have to look for the word done lang and then click that. And then, of course, there's finishing touches. So basically, you can write the title so that you can remember what it is about or what you have created it for, and then the description. And then you continue, and then it provides you the task that you need to do. So that's how easy, no, 3 steps lang. So how it works, creating Kahoot and host the Kahoot. So you have to pick host Kahoot. And then basically, the questions or the file that you created will come out. Of course, that's what you need to press when you're about to host the lecture already to your players or to your students. Okay, next is, of course, it will generate the game pin. So that's what you need to provide to your students or to the players who will be accessing the file that you created or that you created from Get. Okay, next is, okay, so this is the interface or the interface that that the player will see if they will access the one that you created or the template that you created. So they have to log into kahoot.it naman. So that's found in the left side of the slide right now. And then all they need to do is just input the game pin and then enter. And then, of course, they have to write their nickname so that they'll be part of the leaderboard. You know, so leaderboard is very familiar to us already. And then the pin will come out, and then the choices. Basically, that's how you can also assess your students. No? Keen sila sa shapes because the words sometimes will not come out. So this is the interface using mobile. I used mobile. So yeah, and then you can see from the bottom the points that they will see their points from the bottom. And then that's it for Kahoot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carla.
Okay, thank
And
you, Carl. Siguro we'll just go over it kasi due to okay, we
For the
just
time.
posted siguro additional tips that we can use, especially for educators. Okay, we'll just go over it. Okay? Minention na naman natin yung iba dito eh. Yung pinaka-importante rito for me is really be professional and courteous. So even if we are doing an online session, you still have to remain respectful and courteous, especially in the use of the languages. Okay? In dealing with kasi may mga sensitivity. be mindful at all times. Okay, we know the challenges that our students are facing, especially with the internet connection. Okay, so let's us be sensitive. Okay, and we should be able to extend also certain accommodation, especially ako may mga estudyante ko na nando sa mga probinsya. So from time to time, they will always message me. They have challenges connecting because of the internet situation dun sa lugar nila. So we should be able to mindful of that. Okay? So, ano pa? Seek consent before recording a video. So this is important. Okay? Because of the privacy. And then, use acronyms sparingly. Okay? Minsan sanay tayo sa paggamit ng acronyms, pero minsan yung nakikinig sa atin, yung participants natin, okay, hindi sila familiar. And there are times na ispa, nahihiya magtanong, baka sabihin kasi, ang bobo naman ito, hindi nito alam kung ano ibig sabihin. So, kasama yun sa being sensitive. So, buuin na natin. Okay? In second part is more of online learning etiquette for the next slide, for the student. Okay? Kung tayo din ang participant, we should also set a respectful tone. We maximize but don't abuse the chat box. Okay? The chat box that we are providing is intended for the lesson-related concerns and queries. Okay? So, wag tayo dun magkumustuhan na, oy, kamusta ka na, Mitch? Kamusta ka na, Gladys? Etc. and so on. That is not the intention of the chat box again. And don't use all caps. Kasi alam naman natin, maski sa MSS message, yung all caps will mean agitated ka, galit ka, etc. and so on. So, we don't want to convey that particular message. And then, sa mga estudyante din, in most of the times, minsan provided naman yung frequently asked question. Okay, so para lang hindi lang madisturbo also yung train of thought of other participants and pati yung lessons sa mga teachers. Okay, before asking question, refer muna dun sa mga frequently asked questions. Baka nandun na yung sagot na hinahanap natin. And respect also the privacy of others. Okay, at all times. Yep. That's it, Ms. Milch.
Yes, thank you, Sir D. And I just remembered kanina na-mention kasi ni, I think it's Carla or Gladys, about dun sa si Carla, dun sa Kahoot. Remember kung when to use then these types of activities. Kasi if we will use this, let's say, recitation, what if mahina pala yung internet ni student? So we also have to take note of that. Kasi what if the person or the student wants to participate, it's just that mahina yung internet niya. So maybe you can think of other ways how to give additional grades for recitation, or think of other ways. Synchronous or asynchronous.
Yeah. Sorry, one tip lang naisip ko. So these are the tools that comes out sa social media and recommendations. Ako, what I do is that when they say it's free, I access it right away and then sign up right away, because sometimes they tend to change it to free trial na lang pala, and for those who already signed up, normally they allow it for a free access na. So ako, you're always look out, ask from your friends. No, I'm sure si Ms. Milch experience sa akin. You make kulit on how you can access these free tools, kasi sayang baka eventually they'll ask for payment na whenever you use it. Yeah.
Yes, and always share to your co-teachers or to your other friends na, hey, there's an available app pala. So it's always good na may community tayo na kinikip just to keep ourselves updated with all these platforms or all these new mobile applications that are really very useful sa classroom setting. Okay, so yes, that concludes our presentation. If you have questions, again, so feel free to type it in the chat box or in the Q&A portion here in Zoom. All right, let's just double check. All right, if there are questions. So how about in Facebook? Let us double check as well if there are questions in Facebook.
Siguro just to be able to recap, okay? Kasi sabi natin, importante yung recap eh. Okay? So in this particular case, what is critical is for us to understand the motive of using gamification. Okay? Let me reiterate that we are using this particular type of a technique not for entertainment, although yun yung superficial na nakikita natin, but it is really more of a motivational tool for us to be able to increase the engagement and enhance yung self-esteem at saka yung self-motivation ng ating mga participants. So once we are clear on those particular objective, there should be no reason for us to go wrong in using this particular form of a technique. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with you, Sir Dina. When we create programs or even games, we always have to inform then the participants of the objective of this particular game. So, hindi naman siya basta-basta na, oh, let's play a game. You also have to really explain then to them what's the objectives, the mechanics, and what's in it for them if they play or if they do well in this particular activity.
Okay.
Agree.
I think that's it. We're closing the session. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank you so
teachers.
Thank you
much.
for
Thank
the
you, everyone.
participation.
Thank you, everyone.
So now I'll turn you over to Lay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Milch, Sir Derek, Miss Gladys, and
Yeah.
Miss Carla. So this is the last session for Heroes webinars, specifically for Batch 2 and PASIG teachers. So thank you for joining us in the
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Congratulations po. And just to announce that your certificate is being readied.
Oh,
So we will be released. We're just getting the date of when can we release the certificate. So if you're able to finish the course, the 100%, yung sa Heroes 2021, you will be able to generate your certificate po. So please finish. We still have the entire weekend. Even though alam ko pong busy kayo with the start of the class on Monday. But don't worry, the course is still open until November. So you could have will have the time to finish everything and to make it at least to siguro mga 95%, ganyan. So pwede na po 'yon. Acceptable na po 'yan na ma-release yung certificate. But mas maganda if you reach it to 100. So yun po. So please expect an email from us that the certificate is ready for generation. Yan po. And while if you're still finishing stage 1, please note that our stage 2 is also open for enrollment. So you can take it until November din po. So you still have 2 months. So baka mag-extend pa tayo ng December. Let's see. So you'll have those months still to enroll on stage 2 and balikan po yung stage 1 kung gusto niyo po. Pero mas maganda if you finish stage 1 and stage 2. There. So thank you again to our Union Bank partners for the last 3 weeks. FYI po, this is voluntary. So thank you talaga sa time and effort ni ng ating Union Bank partners.
Thank you. Thank you also for this
Thank you din
opportunity.
po.
Thank you so much.
thank you
for
so
the
much, Miss
opportunity.
Lay. Yes.
More partnership with other
Thank you po.
institutions. Thank you.
So that's it for us, for Heroes team and for Union Bank. So see you po on our next webinars, and we will be posting if we will have new ones.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, advance Happy World Teachers Day.